You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. As a life coach, Nancy can teach you how to stay strong under pressure and work through challenges you face. Being legally blind, Nancy inspires others to be resilient in overcoming obstacles and live full out. You can ask Nancy for advice in your life on relationships, finance, business, health, and more. Just call in at 800-333-0001. Once again, that's 800-333-0001. Now, here's Nancy.
Hello, my name is Nancy Solari, and this is the Living Full Out Show. And today we're going to be talking about reclaiming your life, because things always are going to happen where they don't go as planned. So how do you get back on track? How do you reclaim your life and continue to be able to press forward after what you want? We're going to be talking about that and taking your calls. So if you have questions, just stand by. We'll take those calls and step into action. And also, we're going to be joined by our inspirational guest coming up in our next segment, Victoria Reynolds. She grew up in a polygamous cult environment. Now, that is just a wild story, but honestly, the lessons that she's going to teach us, we can apply to our lives as we reclaim our life and really live in a big way. Also, if you have any questions on today's topic, I want you to feel free to reach out to us at connect@livingfullout.com. Also, if you have an inspirational story, we'd love to hear that story and potentially have you on as a guest. So again, just reach out to us at connect@livingfullout.com. Also, we want to make this show as available as possible to you. So feel free to go to livingfullout.com and click on the radio show tab, and all of our shows will be waiting there for you. Also, if you have Alexa or you want to go to the App Store on your iPhone or Android, you can just listen to us on the go, at the gym, in the car. We want to make sure that you are living full out in a big way. So we're going to go now and check out with our callers and see what's going on with them. Hi, welcome to the Living Full Out Show.
Hi, I have a question.
Yes, thank you for calling in. Mm-hmm.
Oh, thank you. I'm 48. I'm approaching retirement. And as I approach retirement, I just wanted to know, how do you suggest I find a hobby that makes me happy and fulfilled?
Great question. I think people want to know that at 48, 78, 28. So what do you like to do? What do you like to do?
I really don't have any hobbies. I work and take care of my family, and that's kind of it.
So when you get together with a friend, what do you generally do?
We go to the movies. We have dinner, have drinks.
Okay. So
maybe parties.
Parties. Okay. So we already know that when you consider passions, we already know that you like the movies. So what you could do is consider diversifying what you normally do. Maybe go to a festival and check out, other movies that may be documentaries or short films, something you've never done, just to see what that world is like. We know that you like going out to dinner. So maybe say to yourself, you know what? Maybe I'm a good cook. Maybe I'm not a good cook. But either way, I'm going to learn to cook some things that I haven't tried before. Or you know what? I'm going to try a different genre of food once a week for a month that I've never done before. We know that you like going to parties. So you might consider either throwing your own party or, having a party with a friend, maybe at their house or yours. And, just we're putting together a list here, right? Now, what type of music do you enjoy listening to?
I'm pretty versatile, so
what if I was to go and put in like a CD or go to your iPad or whatever? What are you listening to? What would be there?
It jumps around from hip hop to R&B to rock. Really a list of everything.
And when you listen to music,
I've never really had like a favorite anything.
But when you listen to music, are you more drawn by the lyrics or more drawn by the tune, the rhythm? The tune. Okay.
Yeah.
So another passion there is you might consider dancing, all different genres of dancing. You might consider an instrument, trying something you never tried before, guitar, piano, drums. And if for any reason you do like lyrics, you might consider taking a class in poetry or songwriting. And I think what you want to start looking at is whatever brings you joy that you naturally gravitate towards, there's passions there for you to explore. And when you take a class related to that passion, now you're meeting other people in that class. And is there
Right.
anywhere you'd like to go that you haven't been?
I haven't traveled much, so yes, there's a lot of
If you had
places I would like to
unlimited
go.
money, where would be the first place you'd go?
Gosh, that's a good question. I love the water, so anywhere there's water, Bahamas or further.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
yeah,
So
anywhere there's nice water.
so now we know that you're going to be in water. So now you got shopping. You got to get a new swimsuit, right? You might
Right.
want to explore, you might want to explore scuba diving. You might try fishing. You might try sailing. You might swim with dolphins. Like, do you see how, like, even when we're going to eventually travel somewhere, there's things that we can do in prep of that.
Right.
But
Okay.
the
Oh,
great
good.
thing is when we retire and we don't work any longer, we have to substitute that with other things. So that's why I'm
Hmm.
saying take a class, meet new friends, try new hobbies, throw parties. That's what retirement is about.
Right.
You've reached the point in your life where you are gonna just, shake your hair up and have a good time.
Yeah, exactly.
The
I just want to
serious
make sure I'm kept busy.
Well, and you know what? I applaud you for asking these questions because it's sometimes hard to know what am I going to launch into. But we've come up with quite a list today. So I think if you continue to explore that, you'll be even too busy, I think. So,
Right.
but thank you so much for calling in and here's to you living full out. You're going to have a great time.
Thank you. You're welcome.
You got it. Thank you for calling in. I love that
Well,
she asked that question, right? Because she's now about to retire. She's reclaiming a new chapter of her life. And what does that look like? It's exciting and scary at the same time, but we're going to think good thoughts for her. And we're going to go to the phone lines again and say hello to a caller. Hi, welcome to the Living Full Out Show.
Hi.
Hi, thank you for calling in. What's going on? How can we help you?
I have a question today.
Uh-huh.
And my question is, how can I achieve my goals?
Well, what do you want to do? What's your goal?
Let's say improve public speaking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, first of all, just so you know, a lot of people ask me that question. And let me ask you a
Uh,
question. Do you think that you have learned things over the years?
yeah.
Okay. And do you have a couple of stories that when you're with your friends you can reminisce about?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the secret to public speaking is just being a good storyteller. You don't have to look good. You don't have to say the right things. It honestly, the secret to public speaking is just being you and just telling stories.
Yeah.
And that's it. And that can be true if you're at a party. That can be true if you're in front of a class or work giving a presentation. That's true if you're at a wedding giving a speech. It's all about being a good storyteller. Now, to couple that, you got to think about your audience. So again, it's not about looking good. It's not about saying the right things. It's about being inspiring, making them laugh, touching them, making them cry. But if you can do that, you got it. What do you think?
All right. That's very helpful.
Well, good. And you know what? You're already calling in. You're already speaking. And for all the people listening to the show today, you started telling your story. And that story is, I would like to become a public speaker. I'd like to share more of my world with other people. And then you just grow it from there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
All right.
All right. Thank you for calling in and let us know how it goes.
All right.
Thank you. So the great thing about what he was just talking about in terms of public speaking is literally our entire life journey is riddled with stories. When we have callers that come on, their challenge is a story. Our inspirational guests, what they're sharing with us, what they've overcome, that's a story. So what is your story? When we're thinking about reclaiming our life, it's looking backwards at, okay, what have I overcome? And what did I learn about from that? It's not about looking good. It's not about having done it right, because I'm telling you, the most successful people fail, not once, but sometimes 20 times. It's just about looking back at all the different ingredients that make up your life experiences. And then from there, when you reclaim your life, you're just telling a story of what you learned in the past, but also telling the story of what you want in the future. And now that's where you go after your life in a big way. So feel free to call in throughout the show. We're here to give you that plan of action to do so, and stay with us. Our inspirational guest, Victoria Reynolds, is coming up. And again, living in a polygamous ranch, growing up that way, she has a lot to give in terms of opening our eyes wider to reclaiming our life. And how do we do that? So stay with us. We'll be coming right back after this break. I am Nancy Solari. This is the Living Full Out Show. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. With Nancy's expertise, you'll learn how to embrace your potential and strive for success. If you have a question or need further support, send us an email at connect@livingfullout.com. Now, here's Nancy.
Welcome back to the Living Full Out Show. I am Nancy Solari, and today we're talking about reclaiming your life and all the actions that we need to do that, because sometimes it can feel hopeless. It's like, where do I even begin? Or sometimes we feel limited, like our environment is what's holding us back. Well, our inspirational guest today, Victoria Reynolds, has every reason in the book to have not reclaimed her life. You know, talk about being limited and restricted, growing up in a polygamous community. And so she's going to share with us about that. But even her life was not defined by the way she grew up. Like so many of us, life keeps on going and the lessons keep coming. So I'd like to welcome Victoria to the show.
Thank you, Nancy.
Absolutely. So can you do me a favor? Because, again, only one like yourself or those who have lived in a polygamous lifestyle can explain that dynamic. So given your family as an example, what is polygamy and how did you grow up? What was the environment?
Well, I think it's really important first to clarify what it is and how I grew up. I grew up with what I refer to as religiously motivated polygyny. And the reason I make that clarification is because polygamy is kind of making a comeback as a lifestyle choice. And so I think it's really important for listeners to understand the difference between polygyny and polygamy, the new in form of polygamy. So religiously motivated polygyny is different in that it's based on religious justification. So in today's sexual fluidity we're experiencing with all of these different ways to express ourselves sexually, and polygamy is kind of an in thing that's part of that. But religiously motivated polygyny is based in the Old Testament standards of the control and ownership of women. So I grew up in this environment where it wasn't just about people experimenting with the relationships. It was actually a commandment of God to have at least 3 wives.
Now, when you think about that and having lived in it, was it kind of a cult?
Very much so.
Okay.
What's funny is that for a long time I didn't know that's how I grew up, and I even remember in high school listening to, this is going to age me, to Luke and Laura in General Hospital, and hearing how Laura ran away to join a cult. And I was in high school at the time, and I thought, now who would go join a cult? I had no idea I was actually living in one.
That you were living in one. And so your father, you had a mother and a father, and then he had a second wife and later went on to have a third wife. How many siblings did you have in total?
I have 16 that were my father's blood children, and then I have no idea how many kids his third wife had. I think she had 10 herself.
How many were shared between you and your dad and your mom?
16.
16. Oh, okay. Oh, wow. Okay. Boy, they had a lot of kids.
So my mom had 12 and his second wife had 4.
Wow. That is amazing. And when you look back at that time, I know you would describe it almost being a slave. And in what way?
You know, it was that the core belief was that a woman's worth is determined by her womb. And so everything that I was taught extended around that the sole purpose for my existence was to be a good mother, a good wife, a good housekeeper, and to not have a voice, to always be sweet and quiet and subdued, and that men and boys always took precedence over me, and that I had to basically do anything I was told by male members of society.
Now, I know...
So even though there was a part of me that didn't, I was a very free-spirited child, and that did not bode well for me growing up.
Well, and I know that you had gone through moments of sexual assault, and even one gentleman coming to your father saying, "Save that one for me." Did you feel as though you had a future, or you were trapped?
No. I think before that I was just a little girl, and I thought, I was, a little girl. And I knew that people grew up and got married, and I had fantasies about, what marriage was and what love was, even though it was a really twisted skew. But when I was 11 and this man walked in and asked my dad to save me for him, that's when it really hit me that I had no control over my life, that I was just property.
Mm-hmm. And I know at one point you just wanted to end your life. And was that due to that trapped feeling?
More than that. Suicide and depression is never just one thing. It's a culmination of things that happen over and over and over again, and a culmination of various things that come together to such a degree that you can no longer think clearly. And you're in so much pain that the only way out is to end your life. So that actually wasn't the first incident. I was molested by a family friend when I was 9, and some other, even younger, some sexual experiences with some neighbor kids as young as 6, some other boys. So that sexual assault was a continual cycle that happened throughout my life until I was raped in high school. And that was kind of the culmination of all of it, because I had lost the one thing that had value, which was my virginity. And I had also I ended up dropping out of high school because of being bullied so terribly in high school that I couldn't go back. And between losing my virginity and losing my chance at an education, I couldn't see past how there could be anything else. There could be no reason for living.
Did you actually attempt, but thankfully it failed, or did you stop yourself?
I stopped myself, barely. I think it's important for people to understand when someone is suicidal, at least in my case, I thought about it every day. I obsessed about how I was going to kill myself. And had it been easier, I would have. But I would think about how to do it, and then what would happen if it didn't work.
Yeah. And
what would happen if it didn't work was worse than attempting it. But there was a day that I decided I was done, and that was it. And I had climbed up to the top of this outpost of cliffs, and I was just ready to jump. And then my inner voice, which I've learned is the voice I trust most in my life. Since then, I've learned to really trust it. Said, "What if? What if there's something else? What if everything you've ever been told about who you are is a lie?" And that was just enough to make me stop and consider something else, to consider that there might be another way out.
You know what, Victoria? You could not have ended on a perfect note before we go to commercial break here, because that everyone really get that, the what if, and that is a mantra through all of our lives, the what if. So thank you for sharing that with us. Very important lesson. So Victoria, we're going to go to commercial break, but I want you to stay with us, because there's so much more to her story in terms of reclaiming her life and living full out. And again, we'll be coming right back after this break. This is the Living Full Out show. We are talking today about reclaiming your life. And so I want you to think about over the show, where in your life can you step forward? Be your own hero. Think about those what ifs.
You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari.
You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. As a life coach, Nancy can teach you how to stay strong under pressure and work through challenges you face. Being legally blind, Nancy inspires others to be resilient in overcoming obstacles and live full out. You can ask Nancy for advice in your life on relationships, finance, business, health, and more. Just call in at 800-333-0001. Once again, that's 800-333-0001. Now, here's Nancy.
Welcome back to the Living Full Out Show. I'm Nancy Solari, and today we're talking about reclaiming our life and how do we even have a vision for a new life when we just want to leave the old life behind? How do we make that jump, that transition? And today our inspirational guest is Victoria Reynolds, and we're going to go ahead and jump back into the interview because there's so much to tell about our story. So, Victoria, I'd like to welcome you back to the show.
Thank you.
So you were just telling us in the last segment about all the despair and really feeling hopeless and trapped, and so much so that you were going to commit suicide, but you had the what if there's some more. And the great thing is you had also mentioned how you were a free spirit. So there was this hard shell of all you had been going through and had gone through, but inside you knew that there was more. That what if voice told you so. How did you get out of that environment? How did you leave the community?
Well, it actually was through, interestingly enough, through someone else's suicide. A couple of months later, I had received a phone call from a friend of mine who got out about a year earlier, and she said to me that if I could find a way to Utah, that she had a place for me to stay. So I grew up in a cult in Montana, and this was the middle of the winter. Any travel outside of Montana was impossible until spring. But in the meantime, another friend of mine, her father committed suicide. And because they had so many relatives that lived in Utah, all these relatives came to Montana for his funeral. And I hitched a ride with one of the boys that came for the funeral, and he took me back to Utah. I lied and told him it was okay with my parents.
Oh, well, that might be when white lies are okay in that case. So did you think that you were going to get caught? Did you think they're going to pull me back in? Or when you drove out of there, was your mindset, I'm never going back?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a fear of someone coming to get me, but not really. It was an interesting environment where my dad had so many kids. What I felt was more of a sense of relief of, oh, good, one less one to worry about. I just never felt like I really was appreciated as a human being. I was just another number, and I was just one more mouth to feed.
Well, and in this case, you're a teenager. We're talking today about reclaiming your life. How do you even start to design where you go from there?
Oh, I had no idea. I remember I had no real-world experience. I had no education. I had no money. I had a place to stay, and that was it. I had no hopes. I had no dreams. I had no aspirations other than living at that point. I hadn't ever grown up with the idea of what do you want to be when you grow up. That wasn't ever something that went through my head. It was never taught me.
So what was your first milestone of independent success?
It was going to a community school to get my medical assisting degree. I decided I wanted to be a nurse because being a nurse was an okay career for a woman. And I called my dad to see if he would sign the papers because I was only 17. And he said, over my dead body is any daughter of mine going to college. Mm. And I said, fine, then I'll get someone else to sign the papers for me. So the lady I lived with signed the papers for me. And that was a really big thing to go to college. I hadn't graduated from high school. I had to go get my GED. And that was the first time I realized that there was something else out there, that I was capable of something.
Well, and it's interesting because as your journey went along, your family was in the rearview mirror. These times were past you. You're moving and grooving to a new career. You met, your husband, you're having kids. But the thing about life is it just keeps going. And even the stones and the bumps in the roads keep coming. And all I have to say is 2008. That pretty much sums it up for most people. But you really thought you had life figured out, like you made it. But what happened in 2008 that just blew your world?
The recession.
Mm-hmm.
I had, at that point, I had a very successful business. My husband had a successful business. We had a beautiful beach house. We traveled the world. I had a great life. And then 2008, it just crumbled. We lost our businesses. We came very close. We came literally within 24 hours of losing our home. It had actually been put up for auction. I ended up filing bankruptcy. We were over $1 million in debt because of the two failed businesses. And both of my kids were diagnosed with a learning disorder, and at that same time I lost both of my parents, which I had never been close to my parents, but I think even as an adult, you feel a little bit orphaned.
Mm-hmm. Where does one begin? I mean, talk about having the rug pulled out from under you. I mean, how did you reclaim your life again? I had gotten to the point of having suicidal thoughts again, and I knew that that wasn't an option for me. I had an 18-month-old and a 5-year-old, and that just, even though those thoughts were coming to my head, there was no way I would do that to my kids. So I started getting up at 6 o'clock every morning while my babies were still asleep, because it was going to be me. I was going to figure it out. So I started going for a walk every morning, and for the first time in ages, I started hearing my inner voice again. And my inner voice taught me how to remedy my life. For our community, for our community that's going through financial stress, how did you get yourself back on track?
Begin with gratitude. And it was a really hard concept for me to get at first, because when that message first came through me, I thought, what do I have to be grateful for? My life, everything about my life sucks. What can I possibly be grateful for? And then my inner voice started teaching me how to be grateful for first the little things, and then bigger things, and then bigger things. And the more I found to be grateful for, the more life started responding to that gratitude.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And really, we can be grateful for the little things. And you eventually did get yourself out of that slump, that tragedy, that crisis, because really it is a tragedy, 2008, for so many. Mm-hmm. But when we talk about present day, and I know you and I have talked once before about this, it's about forgiving, and you've forgiven your parents, you've maybe forgiven 2008, but there is something about your story and having not shared it the right way that you can't forgive yourself for. And in what way?
It's not really about not forgiving myself for it. It's more about not, I guess there was still a little bit of hesitation, perhaps. Actually, I know there was, and I didn't share this with you last time we talked, but I needed to live full out and come out of the spiritual closet, because there were gifts that I had as a child that always made me feel like I didn't belong, that made me really, really different. And I never admitted to anyone that I had these gifts until just a couple of years ago. And once I came out of the spiritual closet as clairvoyant, then my life completely started to shift again in a whole nother way than just telling my story from stage and having the purpose of it being to support a coaching business that I had. And once I came out and claimed all of that and all of my gifts and not holding anything back, then I started to see my story from a higher perspective and how it can serve so many more people than the level I had been serving. So it isn't so much about forgiving myself, which I have. I actually had to do some forgiveness work again this morning for holding myself back. It's also about being grateful for the process and learning what lessons can I extract from not being the level of service that I know I'm here to be.
Well, and I thank you for really opening up and stepping into that. And it's so on point with the fact that we're talking about reclaiming our lives today. And for the audience that's listening, it's easy to look at other people and say, oh, well, they have the money, therefore that's how they got back on track. Or they have the love of their parents and the support of that. That's why they got back on track. But what do you feel is the secret ingredient that someone has to have, aside from gratitude, to really get through the fire, get through the tough times, and grab what they want so badly with both hands?
self-trust.
Hmm.
And I think that's really, really hard for people to grasp because we're so accustomed to teaching, we need to honor, respect, and trust other people. It really all comes down to the relationship we have with ourselves. And everything in life is an extension of the relationship that we have with ourselves. So if anything that is going on periphery, external, we need to look inside and see what's really going on inside. And when we start to work with what's going on inside, everything outside of us starts to shift as a reflection of that. And it's really about listening. I'm constantly asking myself, what's next? What do I need to learn from this? What do I need to forgive myself for? It's a constant self-reflection so that I'm continually moving forward rather than being stuck in stagnation. And I think a lot of it is really learning, one, to trust that you know what's best for you and listen to your inner voice. And the other thing is self-worth. A lot of people are stuck with self-worth issues. That somehow they don't deserve it as much, or a lot of people have severe issues of unworthiness because of the way they grew up. And it's really important to understand that the universe doesn't pick and choose who's worthy and who isn't. We're all born with equal value.
You know what? I love that. And what a great note to close on. And Victoria, you are just awesome in so many ways. And humble and transparent, and there's so much growth that I've seen in you since I met you years ago. So thank you so much for being on our show. You're welcome here anytime, and we really appreciate you spending time with us.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I always love to share.
Wonderful. Thank you, Victoria. Have a great day.
Thanks, you too.
And so I hope everybody was listening really clearly. I know I was. In reclaiming our life, it's about being humble. It's about being honest, asking questions, listening to that inner voice. Now, if the inner voice is saying negative thoughts, override that though, because honestly, your life is worth it. And we don't know what's behind door number 1, door number 2, or door number 3. You just have to step through the door and trust that it's going to work out. And if it doesn't, self-correct, reevaluate. That's how you reclaim your life. So we're going to be coming back, taking your questions. I am Nancy Solari. This is the Living Full Out Show, and today we're reclaiming our lives so we can live a life full out. We'll be right back after this break. When you're stressed and you feel as though your back is against the wall, I want you to close your eyes and imagine the future that you want to have. Always remember what you say to yourself, the internal dialogue. You want to go with positive words of affirmation because you need that in order to reclaim your life and be able to continue to step forward.
You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. Nancy is here as a guide to show you how to rise above obstacles and savor each moment. If you have a question, call in live at 800-333-0001. That's 800-333-0001. And now, here's Nancy.
Thank you again for joining us today. I'm Nancy Solari, and this is the Living Full Out Show. And today we're talking about reclaiming your life. And I just want everybody to understand that we're all going to have different challenges. I get that. Sometimes it's physical, emotional, might be professional, who knows. But you just want to find a way to step into being energetic. If your arms are crossed, your hands are clasped together, open them up, reach out your arms. If you can, stand up, walk around. If you're sitting down, try to twist and turn. The physical actions of reclaiming your life start with you. Then put mental power into action and putting together a plan. And then from there, it's bringing in support, people to cheer you on, advocates for what you want. It's just kind of this domino effect, but we can absolutely reclaim our life, but it starts with us. So we're going to go to the phone lines now and check in with one of our callers. Hello, welcome to the Living Full Out Show. Hi, thank you for calling in. Hi, how can we help you?
Hi, my name is Jonathan. I'm a recent college graduate, and I was wondering if you could help me out with a question I've been facing.
Yeah, what's going on?
Well, as I told you, I recently graduated, and I feel very uncertain about choosing the right career path. Can you guys help me out in any way
What?
with dealing with that uncertainty?
Yeah, what do you want to do?
I'm actually trying to become a marketer, but there's so many different paths that I want to take, and
Mhm.
I'm not sure if I choose the one wrong path, I might get stuck there, and I won't be truly happy with my career choice.
Well, let me ask you a question. Would you be unsatisfied if you had to eat the same food every day?
Yeah.
Okay. And let's just say that was Mexican food. If you had to eat one taco every day for the rest of your life, that's it. It's all you got to eat. Or maybe maybe we loosen that up a little bit and we let you eat Mexican food for every day for the rest of your life. You might long for other things, right? So the beauty of life is choices, that we're not locked in to just one food group, just one taco. It's just like with your degree in marketing, right? Try something, take a bite out of something, maybe work with that for 1 year, 2 years, whatever that is. But you can always switch gears. And when you switch gears, you can stay in the marketing realm, just like going from taco to other Mexican foods, right? Or you have the ability, because of the skills of marketing, to go even further. You might evolve into a career in PR or business development. So what I'm saying is, don't feel restricted, don't be nervous, but you do need to step forward and take action. Is that something you can do?
Yeah, that's something I can do. Thank you so much.
Well, you're welcome. And so take a bite of that first job, that first opportunity. And if you don't like it, it's perfectly fine to switch gears. You really can't fail as long as you're you and putting your best foot forward. Okay?